do it, baby. A little skin fade on the side, a little scissor on top. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Look new?
Absolutely.
Let's do it, bro.
So we're gonna.
Funny what a haircut can do for someone, right?
For sure, it's gonna make me feel like a new man.
It's funny because I have people say all the time, like, "Oh, you sell haircuts," you know. But in reality, I'm selling a feeling. You know, when you walk out of here, that feeling.
Yeah, man, and it's like, what does that make you feel like when someone walks in here with a hair like mine right now, and they get a cut and they walk out feeling like a new person? What does that make you feel like?
I mean, honestly, I like helping people, and helping people's great, and nothing better when they actually come back and say, like, I got, my girlfriend loved it, or my wife loved it, or whatever, like, that person feels good. So all I got to do is give somebody a little haircut, do some art, and I got someone feeling good. Like, that feels good for anybody,
For sure.
It's like helping an old lady across the street. Anybody would feel good.
And they're posting it on Instagram, Facebook,
yeah, that's
tagging
true too.
you. So
there's the whole artistic view of it too, like everyone gets up and looks in the mirror and they want to see something good. So at the end of the day, you're the guy producing that. So what about the opposite of that? You get a bad haircut, how do you feel?
You know what? And that's weird, man, because or not weird, it's true. You get a bad haircut, you feel like you got butchered.
Or you feel disrespected, right?
Disrespected. Not so much disrespected, but you feel like almost there is a grotesque sort of feeling to it. Like, I've had bad haircuts.
Me too.
And I was like, what just happened? And I get furious, and I usually call you.
Right, or it's like the whole, like, you're staring at the mirror, you're like, oh, this is fine, everything's fine. But in reality, you're like, oh, no, what am I going to do? Shave my head when I get home?
Yeah, it's true.
Or then, how about, like, it's bad and it's getting worse. Like, a guy gives you a skin fade, you ask for a low skin fade, and then it's just a medium skin fade. And then the medium skin fade turns to the high skin fade. And then the high skin fade turns to, you look like you're going to the military tomorrow, And then you're just miserable.
And then you have to, it's weird because you either have to say stop, or you let him finish,
just accept.
and you accept it, and you let it go.
Your fate.
You accept it and let it go.
Well, that's the reality of it. You know what? Because obviously we're family, you get to say whatever you want to me, right? But you may feel different going into some random guy's barbershop,
That's
you
true.
might think twice about how you explain your haircut, or how you edit your haircut, or ask him, hey, I don't want to do this, I want to do that, People have these weird mental blocks of actually telling people what they want or how they want it,
Yeah, that's like a social thing, right?
Yeah.
How do you, when someone walks in and they ask for a specific cut, and you achieve it, how do you make that happen?
I mean, reality, it comes down to, you wouldn't know how to do a good haircut if you didn't know a good one looked like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you lived in I don't know, say for example, in the middle of Africa, and they only do buzz cuts, a number 2 all around, would you ever be experienced to a long haircut or a medium style haircut? No. Because you're only as good as what your knowledge and your education. So therefore, when I first started barbering, I used to go to these barbershops and people wouldn't know what a good skin fade looked like. So when they were done, they thought it looked good, but I knew that it wasn't an ideal skin fade, And that's really what it comes down to, is experience and seeing. And you might have a brother or a cousin that you see and you're like, oh wow, that guy's haircut looks amazing. What kind of haircut is that? And then he tells you what kind of haircut it is, and then from there you go to your barber and you say, oh, I want to do a skin fade with a drop, and that's how education works. You see it in real life, and then you apply it to your life,
And how do you go about educating yourself?
I would say the world of the internet. I'd be lying if I said I didn't learn how to cut hair on YouTube, and everything that I've seen haircut-wise has been on Instagram and social media, because everyone's sharing their stuff. It's either customers sharing their haircut, or barbers sharing their work, or whatever the case may be. It's just a whole world out there, and every single day we look at it.
Yeah, and obviously Instagram is huge for looking at videos and whatnot. YouTube is huge for looking at videos. But what do you actually do? What are you looking for? Let's say it's a skin fade.
Right.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for a couple things. I'm going to look for, obviously, the number one thing everyone knows is the execution of the blend, So, for example, there's multiple levels in a skin fade. You can go from 2, 1, 0. But how you blend those together, those numbers together, makes you a better blender or a better barber, you know? Mm-hmm. A good barber doesn't always mean that you're a good blender. It could mean that you show up early, you leave late, you dress well, you speak well, you know? Stuff like that is how you become a good barber.
Interesting.
A blend on the side is only a blend. So you can go to one barbershop to give you a great skin fade. You go back there, you grow your hair out, and they don't know how to use a scissor. So me personally, when I look at a skin fade, I'll be like, all right, how do they blend it? Where on the head did they actually blend it? Did they drop it down? Did they go across? Is it consistent? Is there any choppiness? Are there any gaps, any holes, stuff like that? But that's a barber, me being an artist. You know?
Right. But that's interesting. You look at yourself as an artist.
Of course. That's what I do all day long, you know? So I used to have this good slogan in my barber school, right? And I would say, there's no wrong or right way to cut hair. There's only good and bad techniques. So you may cut hair, and you might do a great skin fade. They come to me, and I did a great skin fade. But it doesn't mean that you started with a 0 on the side and then went 1, 2, 3 upwards. Sure. I could have started with a 3, went 3, 2, 1, and then put a skin line. There's many ways to skin a horse, right?
So that's interesting. There's various different ways to actually execute a skin fade.
Correct.
So it's not just one way. You could do like lower fades, higher fades, and whatnot. Or
the actual technique in which you go about it. Or how about your clipper? I use an Angus Master, but some guy might use an Oster 76. Doesn't make it any better or any worse. The tools that you use don't dictate anything, you know? It only dictates how you actually go about the style, you know?
That's interesting. To sort of put that in comparison, as a filmmaker, it doesn't matter if I'm shooting on a Blackmagic or a Canon DSLR or an iPhone. It's what you can do with it, in a sense. That's the tool.
Have you ever mixed different cameras?
Absolutely. And it's a style thing, right? It's like, as an artist and as a filmmaker, I've done that for stylistic purposes.
Right.
And it adds a dimension to either a short film or whatever I'm creating.
Right. So let me tell you something. There is a misconception in barbering about age, right? And this is how I'm going to tell it to you. An older gentleman walks in and I grab a clipper. What's the first thing you think that man thinks? I'm going to buzz his head clean off, you know? Right. And I'm a young barber, and that I'm going to give him a fade and go too short, right? So by me pulling out a scissor opposed to a clipper on an older gentleman who gets a trim, he already assumes that I know what I'm doing, and or is going to leave it longer how he wants. Right?
Interesting, because the scissor has like a more classic feel to it.
But I could actually do the same exact thing with the clipper over comb, you know? But he doesn't know that. I'm not going to explain that to him because there's no purpose to it. I'm just going to give the man what he wants because I know that's what he wants.
And you've done that?
Of course.
Oh, that's why.
Because that's how you make money, man. You please people. And pleasing people is the key to life.
Interesting. Customer service then.
Right, of course. Or giving people the value that they seek. You know, I might give them the same exact haircut, but I might have done it differently, you know? Like, for example, you know what's important to people? Service and feeling like they got their money's worth, right? That's value.
Oh, man, definitely.
So if I skip razoring your neck at the end, do you feel like you got the full value?
No, and you feel kind of like
gypped or skipped or
yeah, and you feel almost like incomplete. It's incomplete.
Correct. So imagine me doing that to an older gentleman who's been getting lather on the back of his neck for 30, 40 years, and then he comes to some young barber, and I don't do that. I just use the clipper in the back. Do you feel like he is going to go home and think to himself, like, he's good, but he's just not my old Italian barber from Brooklyn, you know?
Yeah, interesting. So you really play it person by person.
Case to case, for sure. And how about this? Guy walks in, he's in the military, asks for a skin fade. Do you think it's a low skin fade or a high skin fade?
That's a high skin fade.
Why do you say that?
Because it's the military, right?
Because it's the military, and we have we have a conception of military people that they get high in tights, right?
Mm-hmm. So is that true?
Well, why would I not ask him? You know, am I gonna just do it? No, I would ask him because it doesn't matter where he comes from in life. I'm gonna give the man what he wants. You know.
Interesting. There's something to be said about customer service as a barber, then. So you're an artist and you're a business person at the same time.
Correct. So what's the difference between if me and you could cut hair the exact same quality, how could me and you be different? Not just a hair cutting point.
Well, then it's like you said, execution of value.
Okay, so what would be some of the reasons why you would find me to be a better barber than you if we both cut hair the exact same?
The not just the efficiency of what you do, but the ability to go out of your way to accommodate a customer.
100%. And do you think that has to stem with what we talk about?
Conversation?
While you're in the seat? Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So making someone feel comfortable in many ways. Maybe it's you're doing the same exact technique as their last barber. Maybe that makes them feel comfortable. That I started on top with the scissor and now I'm doing a skin line, I'm going to blend it together. Mm-hmm. Some people start with the skin line and then go from there, you know? Mm. It might be completely different than what you're used to and you might feel uncomfortable. But how about another thing? You can get a great haircut from a great barber and him not talk to you the whole time, and now what are you doing? You're staring at yourself in the mirror, you're looking at him, you're looking around.
You're falling asleep.
Or the barber starts spinning you in the chair and now you're looking at other random clients that are in the barber shop, you know? It feels awkward. So I never spin my chair mainly because I want people to feel like they're always turned towards the mirror and feeling comfortable, you know? You can keep your eyes on me the whole time. I have no offense taken. You can look, you can spin your head and see what I'm doing. I have no offense taken, you know, because I'm confident in what I do. There's a lot of barbers out there that will hide their haircut until the end, spin you around into the mirror so you only get to see it real quick.
That's a very good point. That has happened to me in the past, and I hate that. I hate when I get spun away from the mirror because I like to see what's happening as well.
Of course. Now, did you say that to that person?
No, I didn't.
Absolutely not. And 99% of people will never say anything to anybody. But you know how they speak? You know how customers speak? With their actions.
If they pull
Why
out
they stop coming back?
Right.
I don't know. Did I give them a bad haircut? You think that I sit here and have a 100% client retention rate? There's no way. It doesn't matter how good of a barber you are. People will stop coming for whatever reason. Maybe they moved. Maybe they went further. Maybe I forgot to do a razor one day. Maybe I went a little too short one time. Maybe I left it too long one time. Maybe I said something. Maybe we were talking politics and I had said something he didn't like. So what was the moral of the story? I should have talked politics. I should have always been consistent and gave him the razor on the back or did the same fade or treated him with the same respect I did last time. Because one of the big things is inconsistency, you know? So, I cut your hair great the first time. What about the second time?
Well, I know you do very well because it's hard to book with you. It's like weeks out. Yeah, literally, I'm like, Joey, you're like, now I'm booked. I'm like, great. So, I mean, talk a little bit about, we're kind of touching on it, but like operating a business. Being a small business owner while also being an artist.
Of course. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I was here or at Tommy's barber or your barber shop, right? It doesn't matter because I still run a business. I run my own personal business and I represent everything about my business. So you walk into a barbershop, it's much different than a normal business. Think about this. Think about this as I'm a subcontractor now, right? You walk in, you have an option to take any of these subcontractors, but you chose me, right? So I represent my own business and I'm going to pull everything that I know that'll help my own business, right? I'm not going to help the guy next to me. I'm going to help myself, you know? So you treat everything like a small business when you're a independent contractor, you know? So I think the hardest thing about business is understanding what clients and customers are expecting of you, you know? So obviously you expect a good haircut, but what else do you expect as a client?
A good experience.
Good experience, right? How about if the place is dirty?
Yeah, cleanliness.
Cleanliness, what else do you expect out of me?
Fair pricing.
Fair pricing, right? So let's talk about pricing real quick, because obviously that's business related. If I was $100 and the guy down the road was $20, who you go to first?
Well, see, this is the thing.
And why?
I'm biased because I know you and I know how good you are.
Right.
But like, if I didn't know how good you were, I would probably go to the guy who's cheaper.
$20 first. Then you go there and you get a mediocre haircut. Then what's your next move? Is it justifiable for you to go to the $100 person after that?
Sure. Like, it depends how bad the cut was.
Right.
And like how...
So you would accept mediocrity at a mediocre price?
You know what? I think it's dependent on the person. If a person is just... They don't really care about their look, their style. They just are like... They want to go to those quick chop shops and then they're going to do that.
And what type of person is that? Someone who gets like a basic haircut, right?
Basic people, average people, people who don't really you know,
look in the mirror when they get up.
Yeah, and that's okay. There are a lot of people out there like that. That's fine.
So now what are we talking about? We're talking about target audiences, right?
Marketing,
so my $100 haircut is targeted to a certain type of person and or upper echelons of person. Someone A, who could afford that price, or B, somebody who values my haircut to be $100, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So what you charge is directly correlated to what kind of service you're offering. If I'm a barber that's booked out all the time, about a month ahead, I have the right to charge more because I'm eliminating some of my clients to make room for new clients, you know?
Mm.
You pay $100 for a haircut, you don't want to wait a month to get that haircut, right?
Right.
So at some point I have an obligation to raise my prices so that new customers can make room and old customers that don't value me can leave, you know? And that's just the natural essence of life and business.
And now, how long did it take for you to learn all this?
It's been a long 30 years, my friend, but I feel like
how long you been cutting for?
I've been cutting for 15, and I've been owning this barbershop for 9. So, I mean, half my life has been here and cutting hair.
Interesting. So it took a decent amount of time for you to learn the intricacies of running the business, of doing good cuts, and...
You know how you learn in life? And be honest. The best things I've learned in life were from the people that taught me what not to do, right? So I used to go to these barbershops. I used to work in the middle of the ghetto, you know, $10 haircuts and people not tipping all day long and the barbers rolling in when they wanted and dressing how they wanted and so on and so forth. You come to realize that customers start leaving those people or start talking behind those barbers' backs when they're not there and saying like, yeah, you know, he's good, but he never shows up to his appointment on time, and you know, I have a life and I have things to do. Like, say for example, if I were to book you at 4 o'clock and I saw you at 4:30 every single time you booked, eventually you'd be mad about it, no?
Yeah, especially if you have stuff to do, you know?
Everyone has stuff to do, and nobody wants to wait in life, you know?
Yeah, on like Fridays, Saturdays as well.
So I charge the amount I charge, which is more than any other barbershop, because I know that I'm going to be on time. If someone walked in right now and said, hey, can you squeeze me in? I say no. Doesn't matter what value they give me. Doesn't matter if they gave me $200. I would still most likely say no because I have an obligation to the next person or the person after you, right? And I wouldn't want to ruin their day to be money hungry. So squeezing in clients is a real bad thing to do, you know?
And do barbers do that?
Of course, all day long. Or they run late on somebody and they just take it out of the next guy. Oh, it's all right. He'll wait. And then eventually, by the time you're done with your day, you're 40 minutes behind, and every single client is 40 minutes behind. You know? So that's not a good look for business, right?
No.
I would say that is the number one complaint outside of a bad haircut on other barbers that I get. Lateness. Oh, I used to go here, but I'm not going there no more because every time I go there, he's late on my appointment. Probably the number 2 biggest complaint about other barbers that I hear. Because the number one is obviously the quality of the haircut.
So there's many things to consider when you're opening up your own barbershop, when you're becoming a barber. How do you, I know we kind of talk about it, but you separating yourself from the competition it requires your ability to do exactly what you just said. Now, what if you're just a regular barber who doesn't run their own business? What should they expect working for someone?
I believe that any barber that walks into a barbershop wants to be busy, right? Mm-hmm. And they sit in the chair and they wait for the busyness to come to them, right? And they expect the owner to advertise for them or put people in their seat, right? And you know what? That's one of the worst mindsets you could have. I'm going to tell you a little story about how I started cutting hair. I was a little chubby 16-year-old kid in high school, and I got a pair of clippers, and I didn't want to wait to learn at school, so I went to a barbershop, and I lied, and I told the owner or the manager that I knew how to cut hair, right? So I knew that I couldn't, he knew that I couldn't, but he was happy to have me regardless. So I was sitting there day after day, and I would do an 8-hour shift and make $30, do one haircut, a quick buzz cut or whatever, but nobody wanted to sit in my seat because I was the new guy, whatever. So I realized that day is that I'm either going to sit here and let it come to me, or I'm going to go out and get it. So the next day I went on Vistaprint or whatever the website was to make cards, and I made cards, and I would sit in front of the bagel store across the street And every person that came in to get a bagel, I would give them my card and say, hey, I'm over there across the street. And one by one person one day, 2 people the next day. Before you knew it, I was busier than almost all the other barbers in there. And it wasn't because I was a better hair cutter. It was because I was promoting and advertising more than the next guy, you know?
So barbering, for you were on the grind, you were on the hustle.
Right, and if I were to ask you right now, hey, Tommy, I need my electric done at my house. Do you have anyone that you know? What's the first thing you do? Do you go to Yellow Pages, or do you go into your mental Rolodex of people that you know?
Mental Rolodex.
Of course. So if I said I need a haircut, who am I going to go to? You might say, oh, how about that kid that said hello to us at the bagel store? Because now we have a connection between each other.
Right.
You know? So I used to use that same tactic at the barbershop. Every person that came in, whether it was for me or another barber, I'd always say, hello, how are you doing? I would get to know them, because the day that their barber didn't show up, or the day that their barber double booked them multiple times, who are they going to? The person that they've already have a connection with, you know? Not some random barber in the back of the room. And personality and connections and relationships is clearly the #1 aspect of good business, you know?
Well, and especially in this business.
Especially in this business.
What's your favorite thing about being a barber? What's your favorite thing about running your own shop?
We all know owning your own business, not having a boss is excellent. But I tell you what, it's harder, because now you have to have inner mental conversations with yourself. Like, if I want to take off this week, I think to myself, what's for the better of the business, you know? I didn't used to think like that. If I wanted to take off as a barber, I said, screw that barbershop. I want to go out to the beach today, or I want to go out and do whatever today. But now you have these mental struggles where you feel like you want to do better for the business at all times, you know? There's times where I go to Sam's Club and I think to myself, oh, maybe I'll put a vending machine in there. Maybe I'll put an ATM in there, you know? So owning a business and working for a business is definitely mental space, in the sense of you're obsessing over it, you're thinking about it, and you really want to be successful, because at the end of the day, your name's on the line, and your name's on the lease, and your name's on the lights, and you don't want to embarrass yourself, and you're constantly trying to look at new things to make money. Whereas if you're just a regular old worker, you're just checking in, checking out, making as much money as you can, and you get complacent like that. Everyone gets complacent.
But starting out, you didn't run your own business. You worked for someone else.
Correct.
So
but you got to remember, this is a business where it's a business inside of a business, you know? Like, my clientele is my clientele. If I were to leave a barbershop and go somewhere else, my clientele most likely will follow, you know?
I see.
So I'm creating my own business even when you're in somebody else's barbershop, you know?
How does that work? So let's say I'm becoming a barber and I want to work for you. Do I get my own chair? Do I pay for a chair? What's like the process?
If you were to come into my barbershop and you wanted to cut hair, the first thing I always ask you is, are you experienced? You would say yes. I would say, can you produce some pictures? I would evaluate those pictures and or videos, and I would say, I would find out what level you're at, right? And there's multiple levels. There's master barbers, 20-year master barbers who could do any haircut, from a flat top down to a woman's haircut, right? They could use a pair of scissors, they could use a clipper, they could do a hot towel shave. Those are the top echelon master barbers. They show up on time, they leave late, they have great personalities. Almost a unicorn, right? As we know, it's hard to find a good barber.
Right.
So then maybe you come in and you're an intermediate barber, right? If you're an intermediate barber, it means you got a couple clients, you got a little bit of clientele, you got some friends, some family, stuff like that. I would say, all right, cool. Any person that you bring in, I'll give you a commission based. Any person that I bring in, it's a standard flat rate. So for example, if my haircut is $30, I would say I get 15, you get 15. But if a haircut's $30 and you brought the client in, you would get 20, I would get 10, right? So I can adjust it like that, or I could just do a standard commission base, which means 60-40, 60 my way, 40 your way. That's usually for newer barbers. 50-50 is a more generous, newer barber split, and then 60-40 your way is an experienced barber split, right? So let me tell you the difference as an owner. I make way more money on commission because the more people that sit in your seat, the more money I make, right? And the worst one is rent-based. So, for example, you come in here, you're a subcontractor, you have your own clients, and you want to just be charged chair rent. I charge you $250 a week, which is about $1,000 a month. And you come in, doesn't matter if you do 1,000 haircuts or 4 haircuts. You owe me that $1,000 a month, doesn't matter. Or you're leaving my barbershop, because that's the agreement that we've had. If you go on vacation, you still owe me the $1,000 for the month. Doesn't matter, because we have an agreement that you're a subcontractor now. I don't care what time you come in, I don't care what time you leave, you owe me the money. And that becomes very difficult to manage, right? Because some barbers want to do their own thing and they feel like they should get discounts if they're not working as much, so on and so forth. But that's really good for an absentee owner, somebody who's not there all the time. Because how are you going to do a commission based
if you're not there?
If you're not there, overlooking the register, or you have a receptionist, you know? The human nature, people end up stealing or end up not doing correct math or whatever the case may be, and then you end up firing that barber over whatever the case may be, a miscommunication or a money issue or stealing or whatever. So a barber that's there, an owner that's there all the time, most likely will offer you commission, and a barber that's not there all the time will most likely offer you a chair rent. And so in all cases, the harder you work, the more money you make, you know? And that is the game of barbering.
What would you tell someone starting out who's like fresh? Like maybe they got, you know, they have a little bit of experience, but they don't have their license. I don't exactly know how the education aspect works and the certification works, but if they're just new, what would you tell them starting out?
I would say hop on YouTube every night. If you're not on YouTube for at least 3 hours a day, learning new techniques, bad techniques, and how to do long hair, short hair, and medium hair, you're probably never going to make it as a super master barber, because continuing education is by far the most important part of being the best version of yourself you could be. I used to tell my students all the time, the day that you stop learning and you think that you've mastered it all, where do you got to go from there? You can only go down from there, you know? You start getting complacent, you stop caring about the haircuts, you think you know it all, and then bang, you realize that people stop coming to you and you don't know why, right? So the number one thing I can say to someone who's new is, let's get out there and educate yourself as much as possible. See what other barbers are doing. Go take an internship at a barbershop. Tell them that you're going to sweep up. Tell them that you're going to work for free, right? Nobody wants to work for free. But what are you receiving if you go and intern at a barbershop? What do you receive as payment if you're not being paid financial?
The experience.
The experience, right? You're sitting there, you're asking questions, you get to see the process in which haircutting is done, and you also get to see the personality of the barbers, you know? There's something that you can't learn on YouTube, and that's the personality of barbers, you know? You go into a barbershop, guy walks in, hey Johnny, how's it going? You know, how's the wife and kids? That's this, that, and the third. That is the difference between a 30-year client and a 3-month client or a 3-year client, you know? As soon as you know these people on a personal level and you make them feel welcome and you have great conversations, whether it's a deep conversation or just a small talk or it's about sports or politics or whatever the case may be, that's the connection, you know? And that's half the battle. I could be a good barber with bad personality and people will stop coming to me. I could be a bad barber and have good personality and people keep coming to me, you know? Why do people go to the stores that they go to or call the certain contractors that they call, you know?
The relationship. They're like, you know, they like that person, whatever. What would you say are things that you dislike about the business? Barbering in general, not necessarily running a business.
Well, let me tell you, it's changed many times over the years. When I first started, the number one issue was getting over the fear of being close to somebody and touching them and having them stare at me the whole time, right? That was my biggest fear, and I was angry about that, and I hated that people were judging everything that I did, right? But eventually you get over that. And then something goes on to the next level where you're not making enough money, right? And then you're just mad about the financials. This guy didn't tip me, or this guy didn't do this guy didn't do this. Then you get to a point where you're fully booked. Then what do you think the problem is?
Time.
Time is always the problem. Is it time for myself? Could be. But the issue is not everyone respects your time. So you show up 10 minutes late. The next guy shows up 20 minutes late. Somehow, all the way down the line, 6 hours later, that guy's going to be 40, 50, 60 minutes late, you know? So now I have to deal with telling people they have to be here on time. And please don't think that you're going to come in here 20 minutes into a 40-minute haircut and expect the same haircut. You might just be getting a quick trim or an edge up or something along those lines. And not everyone wants to hear that, but they also have to realize that you're running a business and you have an obligation to everybody that comes in here, you know?
So you almost have to play hardball and set the tone right away.
Of course, because if you don't, then people step on you, you know? Once they realize that your time is valuable and you take it serious, they take it serious. If they call and say, hey, sorry, I can't make it, it's 10 minutes before the haircut, and you say, all right, it's okay, you don't owe me anything. That person's going to think next time, oh, no problem, I can cancel, he's fine, he's a cool guy, he understands. But in reality, that person doesn't understand that you still have a mortgage to pay, you still have the lights to pay, you still have your lease to pay,
right,
your car payment, whatever. So you sitting around for 30 minutes waiting for that person that never showed up, you just took money out of my pocket. So now we're at the point where I'm fully booked, and if someone misses or doesn't show up, that directly affects me. And it really sucks when that person doesn't say sorry, they don't offer the money, or they don't offer my time back, right?
Right.
Because that's almost disrespectful at that
point.
How
can they offer your time back?
They can't. That's why they got to offer me the money.
Good point. Good point. Okay, so there are some downsides, and so that barbers can understand that they need to look out for specific things and have an understanding of some of the criteria to actually be successful as a barber. Talk a little bit about barber culture.
Let's see Tommy's haircut real quick, guys.
Oh, damn, I love it. Loving it.
All right,
I feel like I'm a
little bit more.
Talk a little bit about the culture of barbering.
I would say the culture of barbering, it has long been an honorable one, and I feel like the generation before mine was very old school. You go to the barber with your dad and your brother, and it's a family event, and there's people at the barbershop hanging out, and it's respectful. And then as it's proceeded into the hip-hop generation, as I feel we are in the sense of, I would say about 40 to 30% of all barbershops have a certain new aura that is very, very related to hip-hop and that type of lifestyle, right?
Definitely.
And I feel like now, because of that, you've attracted professionals that aren't as honorable, or they don't respect the craft as it once was. Now, what's going to be my biggest example? What has faded out in the last 10 to 15, 20 years that was a staple in barbering? What do you think that is?
Classic haircuts.
Classic haircuts is a decent one. You're on the right track. But what do you get after a haircut?
A shave.
A shave, right?
Yeah.
But you only know that as a shave on the back of your neck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In the 50s and 60s, they would get a hot towel shave, you know? And why has that died out? Is it because people don't like doing hot towel shaves? Because as I know it, as a barber, I love doing them. They're great. They're fun. They're part of the art, you know?
So they would get, in the 50s and 60s, they would get a hot towel shave almost every time?
They would get a shave after the haircut. Most people. Or most people would just come in and get a shave. They wouldn't shave themselves at home. They would literally go to the barbershop and get shaved once, twice a week, you know? In some cases more than that. But why did that die out, you know?
Why is that?
You know what? I ask myself that all the time. But I feel like we've become such a generation of instant gratification, and I want my haircut, I want in and out, I want to be in here for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I want to leave. Mm-hmm. And I feel like to add a hot towel shave is another 20, 30 minute process. So if you have a barbershop that ends up being known for fades and longer haircuts, like maybe 40-minute haircut, to add another 30 minutes onto that person's service, that might be affecting their day, you know?
Right.
Whereas back in the day, it was a little less hustle and bustle, I gotta go, you know?
That's interesting.
But I don't know the answer to that.
It changed because of inflation.
Maybe people can't afford it. I mean, it used to be 25 cents for a haircut and a shave, so
that's wild.
Things have changed.
It has definitely changed. So that's interesting. The hip hop culture, it has almost been synonymous with barbering. And you can make an argument that the punk culture as well, because and like the what do you call it, the rockabilly.
Of course.
It has that style with barbering, but it's definitely like a subculture. It goes either one way or the other.
Right. Now, do you think an older gentleman in his 70s would feel comfortable in a rockabilly barbershop?
No, not
necessarily. Do you think he'd be
necessarily.
comfortable in a hip-hop barbershop?
Not necessarily.
Do you think he'd be comfortable in anything else besides someone who looks like him, speaks like him, and gives the exact haircut that he wants? Probably not. And it might go either way with anybody. Don't get me wrong, there's people on the middle of the aisle that will go to any barbershop and fit in anywhere they go.
Sure.
But most people will gravitate to the barbershop that reflects them and or they think will give them the service or value that they want, you know? If I like country music and I only like country music and I go to a barbershop that only plays heavy metal, will there be a discrepancy of
conversation?
Of everything.
Everything.
You know, the look, the feel, the conversation, the music.
Right.
That's big, you know? And that's why at my barbershop, I play very neutral music. I play the news. I named my barbershop after the town that we're in, you know?
Right.
All very strategical things because I want to accept everybody. If you stood here all day long, you'd see black guys, Spanish guys, you'd see women, you'd see old men, and I could change my conversation based on that, you know? If I have something on like sports and I know a guy comes in here and doesn't watch sports, I'm going to change the channel to the news and try to talk about something that's on the news.
Exactly.
Because every person that comes in here, it's a case-by-case basis. You got to change your conversation or you got to change your haircutting style even.
So you tailor the environment and the atmosphere to whatever your next client is.
Correct.
And which actually leads to my next question. And that is regards to being booked on Booksy rather than walk-ins.
Okay.
Booksy.
Big conversation here.
Yeah.
I'm almost at the end of your haircut here, so this might get crazy.
All right, we'll try to make this
short and sweet. All right, so I have talked to many barbers, and I have done both. I have done the walk-in, and I have done the appointment only, right? And at first, I thought the appointments were not as lucrative as walk-ins, because what happens with the walk-in is I get done with your hair, the guy's waiting, there was no time wasted from you getting up and him getting in the chair, right? So I'm constantly busy, right? But what do you think the problem with a walk-in is? A walk-in barbershop is?
I don't know.
Number one thing we talked about was time, right?
Time, right.
So on a Saturday morning, everyone tries to beat themselves here, and there's a line of 10 people, and the guy at the end of that line is waiting an hour and a half. Is it right for him to wait an hour and a half when the guy who got here first didn't wait at all, and they paid the same exact price?
Good point.
No. And you know, I lost a lot of business like that, because once you become too busy and very sought after, you get new people trying to see you. But what about the experience when they walk in and there's 5 people waiting and they have to wait an hour for a haircut? It doesn't matter how good I am, that person's time is more valuable than my haircut.
And it probably adds extra stress on you to have to speed up cuts.
Tremendous.
To try to get to that last person so that you can accommodate them.
Right.
And that's where you can kind of skip out on the cut or whatever.
So what do you think the pros of having a walk-in barbershop are?
Well, you're able to build new relationships. And with strangers, that you can start building up more of your clientele.
Right. I think the number one pros of having a walk-in barbershop are that it gives more of a barbershop feel in the sense of people are hanging out and talking and conversating, right? Whereas if it's appointment only, it's just one-on-one, and then when you're done, the next guy comes in, you know? And there's no real barbershop camaraderie, right? The other benefit of the walk-in thing is there's no cancellations. There's no no-shows. So I'm always making money if people are in here, right? Never have to worry about someone not showing up, right? That was one of the number one reasons why I didn't do it, because I didn't want to deal with the no-shows. But then I realized that I was losing clients based on them waiting too long here, right? Which is a crazy thing to say, is that I was losing clients because I was too busy, right?
I actually have an idea for you.
Let's hear it, but hold on.
Okay.
So now the opposition to that is appointment. So why would an appointment be better? What's the number one reason why an appointment is best?
Well, for me, I know exactly what time to show up. I know that I'm not going to be waiting, and it's just going to be me and you.
Exactly.
That's
so You know what time you're in. You know what time you're out. You can base your life on that.
Exactly.
Right? You couldn't come here on your lunch break.
Right.
If it was a walk-in barbershop, because now it's a crapshoot.
Or even if it was a walk-in barbershop on a Saturday morning and I wanted to go to the beach during the summer, I get here at like 9, but there's 4 people in front of me.
Now you just killed half your day.
Right. It's like, exactly.
So that is the benefit, is that you're now giving added value of somebody's time. Now, what do you do with added value? How do you compensate for added value? You add to your price, right? Mm-hmm. So when I transferred to appointment only, I ended up charging double. Yeah. And people liked it. They were thanking me because it's not about the money. It's about the convenience.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you realize that the people that have true wealth, they pay for convenience, you know? Like the Four Seasons. When you walk into the Four Seasons, you don't go up to the desk. You know, there's someone to greet you, to ask your name. They already have everything ready.
Right.
And it's about convenience and service, right? Mm-hmm. And part of the service is time. Time in the chair. Time that you wait, right? Or time between when you book and when the actual haircut happens, right? So now I'm at the point where I'm really busy. I do appointment only, but now I'm so far booked in advance, I'm losing clients. Because now they don't want to book so far in advance. So what would be the next step for me? The next step would be raising my price again, because then I eliminate some people and make room for new people. So there's a constant cycle now of always having to raise my price if you get too busy, because time is the number one reason why I'm successful. I give people the time that they deserve.
And that's why you're sought after. Well, this is a great conversation. How's my cut?
Beautiful, bro. Check it out, man.
Damn.
Do a little slow
great. I feel
little
great.
Skin fade. Mid skin fade. One of the hardest haircuts to do. BarberEDU.
BarberEDU. Check it out. Subscribe, follow, and like.
Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much for giving me all the views, the comments, the likes. I do it all for you guys. I really want to help people out here. And I appreciate you guys. If you could subscribe, comment, like, it really does a lot for us. We really appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time, all right?
Later.